Good evening and welcome to the City Council meeting for Monday, August 4th, 2025. We will begin with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Lehman, Maher, Roberts, Strommen, Pettigrew, Seacrest, Bieberdorf, Tamang, Evans, Meyer. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, we will have an invocation by Bishop Troy Carr, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able and willing, would you please rise?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to pray. Let us pray. Dear God, we thank you for this day and the blessings that this day have brought. First of all, I would like to ask your blessings and pray for the safety of the Rapid City residents and the motorcycles as the rallies is here. I pray that you would protect all drivers and motorists, that no one else will lose their lives. We pray for the council on tonight. There are very difficult decisions that they will have to make, and I pray that you will give them the wisdom to make decisions that are according to your will. God, we ask that you would bless our mayor, bless our governor, bless the President of the United States, and we pray God bless America. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we adopt the agenda, the city attorney has informed me there needs to be a correction for an agenda item. City Attorney Joel Landine.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 45, which was from Alderman Strommen originally, on the agenda, it indicates that the recommendation of the Legal and Finance Committee was to approve the proposed resolution 4.0. Actually, the Legal and Finance Committee recommended that they repeal the moratorium on the marijuana dispensary licenses 4-0, and it was actually Alderman Strommen, I believe, that abstained from the vote. So that was the recommendation.
Okay, duly noted. Any questions from the council? Thank you. Next, we have a couple of special, before we do that, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda with that change from the city attorney? Second. Motion by Seacrest with a second by Evans. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have a couple of special presentations tonight. First, we will have a proclamation, followed by an annual review of open meetings law. So we will begin with the proclamation, and I'll come right down here. Sako, are you here? There you are. Would you join me right over here? Several months ago, a member of our youth city council, Sako tenant, approached me about our sister city program, and we have a couple of sister cities, one with Apolda, Germany, which is very much thriving, but we also have one with Nikko, Japan. And she said, I don't think we do enough with Nikko, and we had a good conversation about that. And she said, I'd love to make sure we're highlighting that more. And so what we decided to do was to do a proclamation to announce a Rapid City, Nikko City Peace Week. So I will go ahead and read the proclamation. We'll make it official. And if you want to say any words, I'll let you, all right? Okay. Whereas the dates of August 6th and August 9th, 2025 mark the 80th anniversary of the atomic bombings at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, respectively. And whereas these events resulted in the loss of hundreds of thousands of civilian lives, and the anniversary serves as a solemn reminder of the human cost of war and an opportunity to honor those who perished. And whereas the end of World War II, shortly after the bombings, ushered in a new era of continual peace between the United States and Japan. And whereas in 1956, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, with great foresight, established organizations like Sister Cities International to carry out the mission of achieving peace through mutual respect, understanding, and cooperation between people around the world. And whereas visible proof of long-lasting peaceful relationship between our two countries is evident in Rapid City, where we have enjoyed a wonderfully enriching cross-cultural relationship with our sister city in Japan, Nikko City, since 1994. And whereas through the years, periodic exchanges and events have taken place between Rapid City and Nikko City groups, including the naming of a street section near Rapid City City Hall as Nikko Street, a special bell ringing ceremony outside City Hall in 2020 to reflect on the 75th anniversary of the atomic bombings, as well as supporting delegations of young people and other groups visiting both Rapid City and the Nikko communities. Now, whereas on the solemn anniversaries of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings, we recognize the efforts to promote a perpetual era of peace between the United States and Japan, and reaffirm our commitment to peace and reconciliation reflected in a renewed commitment to our sister cities' agreement with Nikko. Now, therefore, I, Jason Solomon, Mayor of Rapid City, do hereby proclaim the week of August 4th through the 10th, 2025, as Rapid City, Nikko City Peace Week in Rapid City, and encourage all people to reflect on the events of 80 years ago, as well as take great strides and efforts in forging growth and understanding between our two countries and communities. And there we go. It is signed, sealed, and it is now delivered. So can we take a picture with you before we have you share a word? Thank you. She's an impressive young lady. I look forward to hearing what you have to share.
Oh, you're much taller than me, so.
All right. So thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. So if you guys don't know, my name is Sakurako Tine, and I'm an upcoming senior at Stevens High School this year. So you mentioned everything in the proclamation, but sometimes last year I came to the mayor in hopes that we could bring more engagement to the Sister City program. We've had a lot of engagement with the Polda Germany one, but the Nikko City one wasn't as known, even though we have quite a thriving Japanese community here in Rapid City. So this proclamation is very much more than I believe that we could achieve at first, but I hope it serves as a beacon for fellow peacemakers and fellow voices within our community. So 80 years ago, the United States dropped the atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan. And hundreds of thousands of civilians were hurt, injured, and killed. And the mere few that survived have a survivor's guilt that continues to this day. So while this tragic event should not be left forgotten, I hope that this proclamation serves as a step forward for both of our communities. And thank you, everyone, for making this possible. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have a special presentation of the annual review requirements regarding open meeting laws. With that, we have Justin Williams from our City Attorney Office.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Again, my name is Justin Williams. I'm an assistant city attorney with the City Attorney's Office. Today, I just wanted to give a brief overview of the statutes regarding open meetings, laws, and rules. So this also serves a dual purpose. Not only is it help for educational purposes for you all and those in the audience, but this also serves as our compliance under the new statute that was passed last legislative session, which has now been codified at 125.13. So this serves as our compliance for that. There's also a link here to the South Dakota Attorney General's office. It's like a brochure that also serves as compliance for that as well. So I encourage you all, if you get a chance, take a look at the link. Read through the brochure. It's about 8 pages of pretty small fine print and pretty dense material, so I thought maybe it'd be a little bit better to come up here and give a brief overview of some of those laws as well, and then I can answer any questions if you have them. First, I'd like to acknowledge that this presentation was really largely based on a presentation that I saw many years ago from Attorney Steve Blair, who's a Deputy Attorney General at the Attorney General's office. He also serves as the legal counsel to the Open Meetings Commission. So he was giving this presentation to a large group of attorneys at the Bar Association and some legislators and things like that. So this presentation is largely based on that. Of course, I've modified it to fit our purposes. All right, so let's talk about the general rule here, is that generally speaking, all official meetings of public bodies are open to the public. Now, of course, as with anything in the law, there are many exceptions and nuances that may apply. We'll go through some of those in the next slides coming up. But I always say, when in doubt, defer back to the general rule that if it's an official meeting, it's open to the public. And why are we talking about these rules? Why are they important? And of course, the main one here is government transparency. We want to make sure that everything is being done in the open and that public has an idea of what's going on. South Dakota Supreme Court summarized it pretty well in a decision in 1984, Olson v. Cass, and they said, quote, "To prohibit actions being taken at secret meetings where it is impossible for the interested public to become fully informed and to detect improper influences." So that kind of summarizes, I think, the importance of why we have the open meetings rules. So the first question that many people have when thinking about how do you comply or do we need to comply with open meetings rules is, first of all, what is an official meeting of the public body? And of course, that's defined in statute at 125.12 sub 3. And important, there's a very important change that occurred in last legislative session that I'll go over here. But I wanted to highlight it first. Prior to July 1 of this year, this was the official definition of an open meeting or an official meeting of the public. It's any meeting of a quorum of a public body at which official business or public policy of that public body is discussed or decided by the public body, whether in person or by means of teleconference. And so the legislature struggled, I think, a little bit in the recent years with that definition of teleconference. What does that mean to have a virtual meeting? And so they further defined in House Bill 1059 from last year, further defined what that means. And they just added some language on here that says, so go on, whether in person or by means of teleconference or electronic means, including electronic mail, instant messaging, social media, text message, or virtual meeting platform, provided the term does not include communications solely to schedule a meeting or confirm attendance availability for a future meeting. So the idea here is that they are very clear that it could be an official meeting if there are things being done in social media, instant messages, text messages, if it meets the definition. And of course, I've got some examples. We'll go through some of those as well, but it's got to meet the full definition of a public meeting. So I have a couple examples here I'd like to go through to kind of illustrate the nuances here. So the first one is, let's say that there's a sporting event here in town and 6 members of council happen to be at the meeting, but there's no proper planning and they just happen to show up at this meeting. Maybe it's a post-22 game, post-320 game. Is that an official meeting in which open meetings laws have to be applied? So we go back to the definition. Well, let's think about that. Any meeting of a quorum of a public body, stop there. We've got a quorum of a public body at an event. Then we go on to say, at which official business or public policy of the body is discussed or decided. Well, I think we can all assume that if you're at a baseball game, the chances are you're probably not discussing official business, so it's not an official meeting of the body, so we don't need to worry about it. Open meetings laws does not apply in that situation. You can imagine a situation, though, where you take that scenario a step further, and let's say that a quorum of the public body, 6 members of council, say, got together at this baseball game, wasn't pre-planned, but then they did start to discuss official business of the body. That then becomes a problem, and open meetings laws would apply. So what I kind of say, and I encourage people to do, is if there's a quorum of people, even if it's unplanned, talk about the weather, talk about sports, talk about anything else, don't talk about the official events or official things of the public body. So the second example here is, again, ribbon cutting for a new development or a business in town. Similar to the previous example, you can imagine there's different scenarios there where if you're talking about official business, if there's a quorum of people there, then you get into those definitions of an official meeting, and that those laws would have to apply. And again, just to kind of belabor the point, third example, very similar. What about a nonprofit fundraiser event? So you can kind of go through, these are all events that it's very possible, in fact, even likely that council members might attend these events, and so, a chance that a quorum of them attend as well. So the other idea is this public notice of a quorum, and many of you have probably heard about this too, but it's for an event that's hosted by a non-governmental entity in which a quorum of the public body is invited, and public policy might be discussed, but the public body does not control the agenda, or the public body may post a notice of the quorum in lieu of an agenda. So this might be, for example, if Visit Rapid City or somebody else were to invite council members to an event because maybe they're going to talk about things that have an effect on the community, so they invite council members to attend. If you're not going to be discussing or making any decisions, it's not a council meeting at that point. It's simply just enough of you are there that it's a quorum, so we can post what's called a notice of a quorum. And usually in that notice, it specifically says that no official business will be discussed and no decisions will be made on official business. It's usually just informative, political meeting, things like that. It does go on to say that in this notice, you do have to abide by the posting requirements in statute there, and we'll kind of go over those in a minute here. So what does the notice of a meeting have to look like? And again, it's outlined in statute pretty clearly. It has to provide notice with a proposed agenda that is visible, readable, and accessible for at least an entire continuous 24 hours immediately preceding the official meeting. And it must be posted at the principal office of the entity holding the meeting. The agenda shall include the date, time, and location of the meeting, and it shall be posted on the public entity's website if one exists. And then for special or rescheduled meetings, the information in the notice shall be sent to local news media who have requested notice of those special or rescheduled meetings. So let's talk a little bit about teleconference meetings, which again was the subject of a lot of discussion at the legislature this last session. So you can see here that teleconference is now defined as an exchange of information by any audio, video, or electronic medium, including the internet. It goes on to specify that any meeting can be conducted by teleconference. A member is deemed to be present if they answer present to the roll call conducted by the teleconference for the purposes of determining the quorum. Each vote at the teleconference meeting may be taken by voice vote. However, caveat there is that if any member votes in the negative, the vote shall proceed to a roll call vote. A little bit about some of the materials that are required for open meetings laws. The requirements make certain materials relating to an agenda item available to the public if distributed among board members or its employees. We always recommend to post it on the board's website. That's what we do here, is that any of the materials are attached to an agenda item and so that people can see those. But for some public bodies, that's maybe not possible if they don't have a website, things like that. And so the requirement is that they must have at least one printed copy available in the meeting room for inspection by any person while the governing body is considering the material. And privileged materials or those subject to an executive session, of course, are exempt. So let's talk a little bit about executive session. They can only be held for approved purposes. Some examples here: an employee or prospective employee's competence, performance, qualifications, etc. They can be held for consulting with legal counsel about proposed or pending litigation or contract matters. They can be held for preparing for contract negotiations or negotiating with employees or employee representatives, such as union negotiations. There's a few other very specific meetings or purposes that you can have an executive session, and those are outlined in 125.2. So again, so we'll go on and say that the purpose of the executive session must be stated in the motion. And what I recommend, and kind of the easiest way to make sure you comply with this, is that you cite the specific statute and subsection to eliminate any and all doubt. And here's an example here. So you would say, I move into executive session to consult with legal counsel about proposed litigation pursuant to SDCL 125.2 sub 3. And that would be the actual motion. So it cites the reason, it cites the statute, which gives the authority to go into executive session for that purpose. And then the motion to go into executive session, like all motions, must receive a second and majority vote of the members present voting. So it has to receive a second and a majority vote of those present and voting. So again, here's some examples. I just wanted to go through some scenarios here. So, I'm sorry, that's the next slide. So further, the discussion during executive session is restricted to the purpose specified in the motion. So any official action considering items discussed in executive session shall be made in an open official meeting. So if you go into executive session, if that then requires official action of the body, got to go out of executive session to have that actual motion and do that action. I have just a little note here that says if the item isn't already on the agenda, it should be voted on at a subsequent meeting to allow public input. And that's only if the executive session requires action. Sometimes executive sessions, of course, are held to discuss legal matters or things like that that might not require specific action. But this is if there's an executive session necessary and an action has to happen after that, then it's recommended to have that on a subsequent meeting. Okay, so here's some examples that I just kind of wanted to walk through to highlight some of the requirements here. Let's say that a council member seeks an executive session to get an update from the city attorney about a lawsuit the city is involved in. Here, there's no concern. This is an allowed reason under SDCL 125-2 sub 3. Of course, I just state there that the motion should cite the reason and the statute. What about while in an executive session, the conversation veers towards competence or performance of a public officer or employee? Here's where I caution that this is likely not allowed. While it is an allowable reason for an executive session, if it's not cited in the motion, it would be inappropriate to discuss in that executive session. And so in this example, if it was reasonably expected that you might want to talk about both of these items, you could do it in one motion where, move to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation pursuant to that statute, and also to discuss competence of an employee. Before coming out of executive session, this is another example. Let's say that before coming out of an executive session, a council member calls for a vote on whether to settle a pending lawsuit. This is again where I would throw some caution. All official actions must be done in open meetings, so it would not be proper to do that during executive session. I say here that discussing pending litigation is allowed reason for executive session, but all official action must occur in open session. Here's another example. Let's say council has 10 members, of course. Let's say 8 are present at the current meeting. During the vote to go to executive session, 1 member abstains from voting on the motion to go into executive session. How many votes are needed to go into executive session? The answer is 4 because it's a majority vote of the members present and voting. So in that scenario, the majority would be 4. And I just kind of give this little disclaimer at the end that, of course, nothing in this presentation is intended to be legal advice or an official opinion of the city attorney's office. So reach out to your city attorney to discuss specific situation, legal questions you have. With that said, I would stand by for any questions if there are any, and here's our contact information there.
Well, thank you, Justin. Very helpful. Good to know what the rules of the road are. With that, that will conclude our time of special presentations, and we will move on to general public comment, a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda, except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. We do have a 3-minute time limit for each speaker. We should have a countdown clock right here above me, and we will begin with Ron Jeffries.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm Ron Jeffries, General Manager, Central States Fair. This is also the 80th anniversary of the Central States Fair. And probably some of you believe I was here for all of them, but I wasn't. Actually, though, the fair started in 1887. Clear back in the day, there was an official fair that took place, but we did not formalize as the Black Hills Exposition until 1946. That subsequently became, and that was a stock company. It subsequently became Central States Fair, and that's how we function currently. Our dates are August 15th to the 23rd. We open at noon on Friday the 15th, Saturday and Sunday. We open at 3 o'clock Monday through Thursday with the start of school. So we back the opening times. That'll be something new for the public. We would like to invite you all to come out to our ribbon cutting, as was mentioned, as part of the open meeting laws here. That'll be at 3 o'clock on Friday. I think you've already confirmed. Is that correct, Mr. Mayor?
I will be there.
perfect. And really, this is just a great chance for people to come out and have a affordable vacation right here at home. Plenty of exciting things, everything from motocross races, the Mountain States Ford Demolition Derby, the PRCA Extreme Bronx Finals. The PRCA produces 5 national finals events. Rapid City holds one of those. And we compete with some large markets to do that. So there's got to be some gel moving there to make things happen that way. We go into a series of Range Days Rodeo, 3 nights. Some of the best paced cowboy action and cowgirl action you'll see in South Dakota. And then we conclude the entire fair week with the Black Hills Energy Concert Series. And I think this is probably a favorite of some of you up there, but Lil Jon will be here with Mike Jones. I'm not a hip-hop guy, but I do notice that when I go to the hip-hop shows, I know a lot of their songs. I've concluded that that's the music they play at all the weddings that we go to. They want to get up and dance. So I happen to know a lot of the hip-hop music. We then turn to Lee Bryce, and he's a fantastic country show. He's got Timothy Wayne joining him, a new up-and-comer. We're excited to have them. And then, of course, we close out the show with Tanya Tucker, an icon in country music. Just should be a fantastic show again. And she's joined by a young lady from South Dakota. Juliette from Del Rapids, South Dakota, who's making her career in Nashville, has been picked up by Tanya Tucker, and she's bringing her along with us. So all of our stuff is available on site at the Central States Fair office. You can get passes at thecentralstatesfair.com, and I have 30 seconds if there's any questions.
See no questions in the queue, Ron. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Next up, Sean Hollern. Sean, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yeah, that was pretty close.
As a-
Hollerin.
Hollern?
Hollerin, yeah.
All right. All right. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Sean Hollerin. I am the wellness coordinator for the police department. Happy to serve our officers, but I'm not here to distribute wellness for them today. I'm here for heart health. So I'm part of an organization called the Cardiac Ready Community, and we want to make Rapid City a distinguished community in that world. So the South Dakota Department of Health, South Dakota Cardiovascular Collaborative, and a bunch of other organizations are working to improve their communities and the heart health within them. And so the Cardiac Ready community is just focusing on bringing all the best practices together so that we have the best chance for surviving or preventing any type of cardiac incident within the community. A lot of pieces play into this, especially with a large organization like this. There are 7 different communities across South Dakota that are already distinguished as a cardiac ready community. And as you imagine, they're all much smaller than Rapid City. And so all I'm here today is to just bring awareness to this cause. We're pushing to make this distinction by the end of this year. And we have over 38 individuals within the team that are working towards this, 12 different organizations, including Monument Health. We got Oyate Health Center, American Heart Association, South Dakota Department of Health, like I say, Police Department, Fire Department, Dispatch, all these different great organizations working together to improve the heart health of our community. And we're just here to try and promote that. And if there's anybody that would like to join the team, like I say, the hardest part about Rapid City is there's so many different organizations doing great things in this realm. And so what we're really trying to do is bring everybody together in a collaborative effort so that we don't overstimulate the market on all these different things, but also bring awareness to everybody else's work that they're pushing forward with this. So that's what I have for you today, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next up, Tanchi Weaver.
Good evening, Council. I appreciated the presentation that you had, and I would like to turn your attention to 125 1.1. If you would refer to that, it does say that your agenda should be accessible and posted for the part in bold was continuous 24 hours immediately preceding any official meeting, with the notation at the beginning of this meeting that item 45 was not posted correctly. I really think that it would be wise to continue that item so that people who came here would have come here if they had thought it was a repeal rather than an amendment to the moratorium, would have a chance also to weigh in. That doesn't mean you can't take testimony tonight from people if you leave it on the agenda, but I do think you should continue the item to be fair. That said, the reason I wanted to talk to you under this item is because I wanted to make some general comments about TIFs. It seems that we have gone TIF happy. And not only are you looking at 3 different TIFs under the heading of economic development, but the county's looking at one. Today in my mailbox, I got a notice from the school district. It's a survey. School district wants a bond. Well, that bond is about as much money as the Liberty Land TIF. And I think that's something that people don't understand. From a constitutional point of view, TIFs are not constitutional because, as the Department of Revenue says on their website, economic development TIFs are not included as local effort in the state aid to education calculation. So who makes that up? Every other South Dakotan, because the state aid formula has to be adjusted now. Can those people vote on this? Did they vote for you? They didn't. And from that point of view, TIFs really are not a constitutional thing to do. There's a lot of information on the Secretary of, well, it's actually the Department of Revenue. You can go on there and you can spend all day learning about TIFs. And I really encourage people to do that because property taxes have been one of the primary subjects of discussion this summer. Our legislators have been traveling through the state. They hosted an all-day seminar, or I guess you would call it a seminar, here in Rapid City at the School of Mines. It was well attended. They've been all over the state. People are drowning.
Ms. Weaver, your
yes.
time's up.
Okay, well,
Thank you, ma'am.
Keep that in mind,
Thank
please.
you, ma'am. Next up, Taffy Howard.
It is really tough following Tanchi, but I'm going to try. Mayor, members of the council, I too wanted to make some general comments regarding TIFs. And in the interest of time, I did write down some notes. At its core, a TIF is a mechanism that captures a portion of property taxes from new developments and redirects them to subsidize the infrastructure costs for those very developments. The problem is this: TIFs don't generate new revenue. They divert much needed funds from essential services like schools, police, and fire departments while padding the pockets of wealthy developers. Does anyone see any of these developers struggling to stay in their home, struggling to put food on the table? No, they wouldn't be doing these projects if they weren't profitable. Meanwhile, I've had constituents in tears telling me how they're struggling to pay their property taxes to stay in their homes. Are they getting their subsidy? I've had constituents tell me they've had to sell a vehicle to pay their property taxes that year. Where is their subsidy? According to the National Taxpayers Union, over 70% of TIF-funded projects would have proceeded without public subsidies. So why are we giving tax breaks to businesses that would have succeeded on their own? We are effectively shifting the tax burden onto everyday citizens, forcing them to pay higher taxes or receive fewer services, all while developers profit from taxpayer-funded incentives. There's also a significant transparency issue. TIFs are often approved with little public scrutiny. And I challenge you to find detailed information about TIFs on the city website. It is a challenge. And I would ask that you would just automatically, if we continue to have TIFs in this state, I would ask that you automatically refer them so the citizens could have a say. And finally, I want to talk about growth. Some folks seem intent on turning Rapid City into Sioux Falls, and then Colorado Springs, and then Denver. The people I talk to, whether it's the mom I talked to yesterday that's watching her daughter who just was born here, graduated from School of Mines, she's leaving. The daughter is. Because it's in her lifetime, it's already gotten too big for her. So we're losing some great people because there's this drive for growth at any cost. And I think that that is eroding the very essence of who we are as a city. And is this really the kind of city we want to become? I think the answer for the most part is no. So I would ask you to please stop pushing growth at any cost. Let's focus on creating a tax system and development plan that benefits all taxpayers equally without picking favorites or subsidizing a few developers that most certainly do not need it. It's really sad when, as a state senator, I'm told by folks in state government that Rapid City is known for being the biggest abuser of TIFs. Or when I get a call from somebody going, what is going on out there? What can we do to stop these? It's craziness lately. So I'm asking you to let's take a more responsible, transparent
Mrs. Howard,
approach
your
to
time's up.
economic
Thank you.
development. Thank you.
That will conclude general public comment. We will now move on to non-public hearing items 3 through 45 and open public comment for items 3 through 34. I do have a couple of speaker request forms for these items. We will begin with Deborah Jensen for item 24. As Mrs. Jensen makes her way, just a reminder, 3 minutes per speaker.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the Rapid City Common Council. My name is Deborah Jensen. My husband Jack and I owned a business on Mount Rushmore Road for over 20 years. We currently own property on Mount Rushmore Road, and I'm the president of the Mount Rushmore Road Group. You should have received some information in your email, hopefully over the weekend, that talked about item 24, which is on your agenda, and that is a request from the Mount Rushmore Road Group for a business improvement district. Since 2005, the Mount Rushmore Road Group has been dedicated to ensuring that this vital corridor is a thriving, attractive, and secure area, not only for businesses, but property owners, the surrounding neighborhood, and of course, the traveling public. A bid would enable projects to continue, such as the annual Wilson Park Christmas lighting, the poinsettia lights that we have on Mount Rushmore Road every year, and many other projects that we currently have. We need also to implement security enhancements. We need to improve aesthetics, support and strengthen our businesses and also our properties on Mount Rushmore Road. Mount Rushmore Road is arguably the most important entrance in Rapid City. It serves as an invitation to downtown Rapid City and our city center. It also is a vital corridor for our medical facilities as well as commerce, and it is a destination for our diverse services on Mount Rushmore Road. It is the 4th busiest road in Rapid City, and when it was designed recently, finished in 2018, it was designed to accommodate 5,000 more vehicles per day than is currently being utilized. So up to 35,000 vehicles a day are expected on Mount Rushmore Road by about the year 2030, which is about 5 years from now. In 2024, Mount Rushmore Road businesses contributed over $1.2 million to the city's gross receipts tax from Kansas City to Tower Road, and that's according to the South Dakota Department of Revenue. The bid that we're requesting would ensure consistent investment into Mount Rushmore Road. It would protect our property values, it would attract more visitors, and it would build a stronger local economy. So we respectively request that you approve item 24 tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Tim Sauter for item 15.
Yes, hello. My name is Tim Sauter. I'm just here representing the City Block Project, specifically for agenda item number 15 and the Opportunity Capture Fund. I don't have a ton to say because there's already been a lot of time spent on it, but if you have any questions for me when it comes up, both me and my general contractor are here to discuss it. But yeah, and also, you know, I just wanted to say thank you all for all the work that you do, all the work that you have done, because this has been in motion with the Opportunity Capture Fund since last year, so there's been a lot of hours put into it. So despite people come up here, I know there's oftentimes grievances, but I just wanted to express some appreciation for everybody's work. So, yep, thank you.
Thank you, Tim. That will conclude the public comment period, and so we will close public comment for items 3 through 34 and move on to consent items 3 through 34. Would the council like to remove any items for separate consideration or approve the full balance? Callie Meyer.
I'd like to pull item 24 for separate consideration, and I'll abstain.
All right. Councilor Meyer pulls item 24. Any other items? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve items 3 through 34 with the exception of 24. Motion by Sechrist with a second by Maher. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 24, approve resolution number 2025-085, a resolution designating boundaries of potential Mount Rushmore Road Business Improvement District and authorizing the mayor to appoint members to the Business Improvement District Board. All right, motion by Sechrist with a second by Maher. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries with one abstention from Councilor Meyer. So that would take us to the end of the consent items, and we will move on to non-consent items 35 through 45 and open public comment for 35 through 45. I do have a number of speaker request forms, so as I go through these, I'll announce the first person up and then the person who is in the on-deck circle, and that way you can get kind of ready and positioned, and we'll get through this. First, for item number 40, Michael Lewis, followed by Quentin Riggins for item 40.
Good evening. My name is Michael Lewis. I'm currently the council president of the board for the Black Hills Area Council. Now that's of significance, so that gives me certain responsibilities that I have to maintain in order to represent our board and our organization. But more importantly, I'm a symbol of Boy Scouts. I earned my Eagle in Rapid City in 1971 while a member of Troop 3. Later, I was part of Post 110, which was then sponsored by the Rapid City Police Department. And we spent days following the flood doing search, rescue, and recovery. So when you think about scouting in the Black Hills, it goes back a long ways. We've been here for 95 years. What I learned in scouting positioned me to have a successful business career, including 30 years in the U.S. Army and South Dakota National Guard. So later when I retired, I moved back to Rapid City to be with family and began volunteering here with the Black Hills Area Council almost immediately because I still firmly believe that the values embedded in the Scout Oath and Scout Law provide a path for our youth to learn and make moral and ethical choices for the future of their lives. That's part of our mission. So what we're asking for is a donation of the land under the building that we currently own. A very strange relationship that goes back to the 1980s, and Quentin will talk a little bit more about that. But I want to emphasize that scouting still has a significant purpose in Rapid City. We do a Scouting for Food drive every year, and we collect 12 to 15,000 pounds of food donated to food pantries every year. We participate in the city cleanup every single year, and our units are assigned areas to go out and help pick up the garbage that floats around the community. Those that earn the Eagle rank have to do a service leadership project, and that involves another hundreds and thousands of hours that's devoted to our community and to some of the city government departments that are represented here tonight. But I do have a fiduciary responsibility to my board. The assets and the financial basis of the Black Hills Area Council is important as we consider a potential merger. That's being requested by our national organization to create a one council South Dakota approach. So it's important to think about the fact that these dollars that are involved in a donation of land will not leave this community no matter what happens to our presence in our building. It'll stay right here.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Next up, Quentin Riggins, followed by Mark Millar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Quentin Riggins. I am a board member of the Black Hills Area Council. Having served as past president, I've been a member of this board for 20 years. Also, I'm an Eagle Scout from the council, achieved my Eagle Scout in Phillip as a Lone Scout in 1997. In the 20 years that I've been a part of this board, 10 years ago we obtained ownership of the building. It was owned by the Swander Trust. As part of their process, they wanted to donate the building to us. However, the land upon which the building sits has been the city's property ever since this building was built. And This has been our council headquarters since before I can remember, when I was a scout, and it's always been our council headquarters. 10 years ago, we started the process to obtain donation of the land to the council. However, that process stopped for whatever reason, in large measure because we got busy with other projects. Now it's come back to the forefront, though, because of the merger that Mike talked about. In scouting, the national office dictates how local councils function. And in this case, they've told our council that we need to merge and recommended we merge with the Sioux Council in Sioux Falls. That merger would be for the creation of a new council. We've been assured that we're going to have a seat at the table. We've been assured that our scout camp is going to remain with us and continue to operate. We've been assured that there will be a presence in Rapid City and that this will not be a situation where all of the offices are going to be in Sioux Falls. But as part of that merger, the Sioux Council has requested that we come back before this commission and see if we can obtain title to the property in order to clean up some of our assets so that once a merger is completed, everything will be clean. That's a request that they made to us. There's been a group of us who have been meeting regularly to try to iron out the final terms of any merger. We're still hopeful that the merger will take place with the Sioux Council. We think logically one single South Dakota council makes the most sense. If we can't reach a merger with that organization, though, Nationals has indicated we will need to find someone else to merge with. That could mean Montana, that could mean Colorado. We feel it's in our best interest to try to work with the Sioux Council in order to have a South Dakota council. And so that's why we're here today. Again, we've owned this building longer than I can remember. We're just trying to clean up our asset lists as we go into a merger, and we would request that the council transfer the property over to us so that we can unify that title with the building. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mark Millar, followed by Kittrick Jeffries.
Thank you, Council. I'm here to talk about the TIFs. I won't be able to speak as nicely as Citizens Weaver and Taft did. That's not my job. So I have a lot of questions about what's going on with the Marshall Heights TIF, how it was thrown together, how the city attorney answered the question last week on how this would have changed the tax rates of these properties, and his answer was just announcing that we are going to put a precinct in North Rapid is increasing the value of the properties in North Rapid. I believe that was the city attorney, or maybe I'm quoting the wrong person. Anyways, that's a ridiculous statement to be made. The TIFs really have got out of line. And I think what we as citizens need to do is go find the Planning Commission Council at 7 o'clock in the morning and visit them. Because basically you're just a bunch of rubber stamps. And I'm going to go attend those meetings to see if any of you ever attend or if you're on those meetings. But where we are at in this city and with your rubber stamp is the gentleman that brought the proposal for Liberty Land last week. You didn't even have to listen to his proposal. You shelled out $125 million in about 2 minutes. Did you hear what he had in his proposal? The two actual facts that he made in his proposal. That there's going to be a hotel with a water feature that is not going to be a water park, and that we hope to bring an IMAX theater. And you handed, on that business plan, you handed out $125 million to a private citizen, a grant, a gift. So it'd be a little ridiculous for me to argue about this thing that you're trying to do up here in Marshall Heights, handing out more money to private individuals under the name of economic development. Right down here in the coveted core of this community, we have two brand new buildings supplemented by public money that are full of first floor retail and the opportunity for employment for people. I'm going to lay $5 on the deal that some of those little shops in those buildings will never be occupied by retail. We don't have that kind of demand here. You're still trying to buy into another market that doesn't exist here. We have, so as you further drive on, and it's all about economic development, here's some of the other things that we supposedly have coming up in this community. We're building a women's prison. We're going to have to put people in that, to employees there. We're supposedly building a $500 million battery factory on the south side of town. Where are we going to get the people for there? We bring these companies to this town, we won't be able to fill their
your time's
employees.
up. Thank you. Kittrick Jeffries, followed by Heather Baxter.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Kittrick Jeffries. I'm one of the owners of Puffy's Dispensaries. I want to start my comments by saying what I think Resolution 2025-090 is not about. It is not about being for or against marijuana. It is not about the Department of Health and Puffy's litigation. It is not about Black Hills Cannabis Care. This is about allowing the transfer of locations and ownership of existing dispensaries. The majority of license holders support this change, and the majority of license holders also support leaving the rest of the moratorium in place, essentially until the litigation is done, capping the number of licenses at 10. I acknowledge that this is morphed into a debate about Puffy's and the moratorium at the Legal and Finance Committee, and this shouldn't be a part of your vote. But I and my attorney, Mr. Nas from Gunderson Palmer, are here to provide an update. Puffy's, under the same rules in the city as everyone else, received 7 dispensary licenses in the initial drawing. 5 of those licenses are currently in litigation with the state. That litigation only touches on whether we were operational within the first year. This case has been complicated with 20 witnesses, hundreds of documents and communications, as well as several other litigations. Throughout, I have worked hard to keep city officials informed about the litigation. Until last summer, we were always assured that the city wanted the process with the state to play out and did not want to get into the issue of local licensing. City officials made those decisions and took those positions, perhaps without fully keeping you informed. But we thought you made the right decision memorializing that with the moratorium and allowing it to continue until the litigation was done. Puffy's has not had its due process, but we are close. I know it is frustrating that litigation takes a long time, but this has been a complicated case of first impression. Medical marijuana is brand new, and even part of it went to the Supreme Court. You cannot have a local license without a state license. The city's current position to let the state process play out makes sense. The outcome will determine the best approach for the city regarding those 5 licenses. Black Hills Cannabis Care sued the city to end the moratorium, contending that it was somehow entitled to a local license and also entitled to $100,000 a month from Rapid City taxpayers. The judge threw the case out. But before he did, he gave Black Hills Cannabis Care their day in court. And all we're asking you to do is to give us our day in court under due process under the law. All the other license holders who could benefit from more uncertainty support keeping the moratorium in place because that is how they would want to be treated if they were in Puffy's position. That should tell you something. The only thing that has changed since December is that our case is much closer to resolution. Now let's keep our eye on the ball. Resolution 2025-90 does 3 things. It protects the city from litigation, it allows the transfer of licenses between location and ownership, and it allows the city time to make a decision. I urge the council to pass the resolution, and I'll stand by for questions.
Next up, Heather Baxter, followed by Tonchi Weaver.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. As a previous speaker already said, the agenda was very confusing, so I too would ask that you guys reconsider putting it on a future agenda. I'll keep my comments brief. As of July 1st, 2025, there was 13,489 approved medical patient cards in South Dakota total. Pennington County has 2,734 active patients with 62 active caregiver cards and 9 operational dispensaries. Sioux Falls has 5 dispensaries. So I'm just curious, why does Rapid City need more and we're half the size of Sioux Falls? It seems that 9 dispensaries can serve those 2,700 people in our community currently. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Tonchi Weaver, followed by Kurt Voigt.
Well, hello again. I know there are a lot of people here that want to speak on this item. I'm speaking to you on item number 45. Again, right now, it is a repeal of the moratorium that you are considering, and I am encouraging you to uphold that moratorium. That was heard by the council with input from the public. I was one of those people, and I just want to remind you that the community does have a right to decide what kind of standards they should have. We did that with adult-oriented businesses as well. So something like marijuana, whether you call it medical or not, the reality is it's de facto recreational because it's not hard to get a card. It's something that does affect the community, and there are ripple effects, and we should be concerned about the effects on our children. I think the pause was wise, and I encourage you to keep that pause in effect. When I was here last, I think I mentioned something about off-premises sales, where people do call and make an order. I'm not saying it happens in this community, but I know it happens in our neighboring communities. People don't want to, of certain repute, do not want to be seen in marijuana establishments, so they call in their order and they meet off premises. To me, that's a drug deal. And if that is happening here, I urge you to put an end to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Kurt Voigt, followed by Nevada Ellison.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I speak to you on a personal perspective regarding the marijuana moratorium. In 1980, I was diagnosed stage 4 cancer, treated at Colorado General. One of the processes in terms of dealing with a radical surgery that occurred, there was an opportunity to ingest marijuana to try to make it so that you could tolerate that experience. I denied that. The point is medical marijuana through the medical professionals has been available for over 20 years. It's simply a vehicle to make it a social activity. From my experience in the military, is bad. Anybody who has had responsibilities in the military, as I did, knows that those who were involved in that type of social experience weren't given those MOS responsibilities where life was at risk. It is a gateway drug. That medical marijuana moratorium in this community needs to stay. It is a gateway to further heavy-duty drug abuse and neglect, which is a terrible, terrible thing that's happened to this community and to those in the state, especially those who probably aren't of age. Need to take responsibility in the community and make a statement, and that statement says it's a moratorium, stays where it's at to the best of your ability as a council and leaders in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Nevada Ellison, followed by Dr. Dennis Phillips.
My name is Nevada Ellison. I'm with Black Hills Cannabis Care. Spoke at the finance meeting, and there's a couple topics I want to talk about. First of all, I got into the industry because my mom had cancer, and she got 3 months of her life back, and she said, if you can get into it, go help people. And that's why I started Black Hills Cannabis Care. And whether people believe it or not, that's fine. I hope nobody in here gets cancer, but it might help you someday. You know, there's a lot of anti-cannabis members in the community claiming that there's oversaturation of cannabis. Well, there is. Every CBD shop, every grocery store, every gas station sells the same thing we sell, gummies. You can buy. I bought this right next door to here at a CBD shop, and it has THC in it. So how do you determine oversaturation if there's 50 gray market dispensaries in town? And I don't know if you can do that until that market is shut down. I don't know when it's going to shut down. They're cheating the system by going through the hemp bill. And the second thing I want to talk about is 2 companies in Rapid City applied almost 40 times for licenses, and they drew 10 of them of the 15. And then one of the companies acquired another one because of the multi-state operating company didn't want one because the market's not there for them. So they have 73% of the market share. Neither one of these companies sell our product. We're statewide and we do really well across the state, but we don't have distribution in Rapid City. And we feel that we have waited patiently for 3 years while one of the companies went through litigation, that we deserve one. Now, I don't know how we resolve it. I know how some of the other states have done it. Some of the other states, how they do it is if you have a cultivation in city limits, you automatically get 1 dispensary. That's how other cities have done it. You know, if the one company loses theirs at the state level, we would love to be in line. If they don't, we wish them the best. But we are here to help the people. We're not here to make a bunch of money. We're a small company. The 2 majority owners of the company work there 40 to 70 hours a week. And the moratorium only hurts the future of one company, and that's our company. And we're the mom and pop shop. The mom and pop shop, that in that room right over there, we talked about protecting at the beginning of this thing. And now, to me, it feels like it's just a money grab by bigger companies. So we hope that someday we can have distribution in Rapid City, and I'm an advocate for medical cannabis because I've seen it help people. And thank you for posting online. It's good to have feedback from people. So thank you for doing that. Keep doing that. That's awesome. Thank you, guys.
Mr. Phillips, or Dr. Phillips, you're up next, followed by Matt Nass.
So I must say that the notes I prepared have been affected by what appeared to me to be a change in the agenda. So the main thing I would like to request is that you consider readdressing that agenda item. I spoke here, I guess it was in December, for the moratorium, and I will say at this point, I'm still for the moratorium. My wife, Mary Beth, and I moved here from the Denver, Colorado metro area in December of 2022, due in large part to the destruction that we thought was brought on, we believe was brought on by the approval of legalized marijuana use in Colorado. From 2013 onward, it was approved in 2012, we observed adverse economic, health, legal, and social ills in Colorado. The quality of life in the Denver metro area where we lived declined sharply after the production and sale of the use of marijuana was legalized. And we don't want to see that happen in Rapid City. I had a list of points I was going to make about the dangers of marijuana use, and I do not believe that the purported benefits outweigh the dangers of using it. And so I speak on behalf of continuing the moratorium. Thank you.
Next, Matt Nas. And Matt, if I mispronounce that, please correct me, followed by Jim Kenyon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Matt Nas, Gunnarsson Palmer here on behalf of Puffy's LLC. Medical cannabis is a new regulatory environment bringing with it new questions. Last December, the city of Rapid City continued a moratorium on new medical cannabis licenses as one of those questions, specifically litigation between Puffy's and the Department of Health regarding renewal of 5 state dispensary licenses issued to Puffy's, worked itself through the legal system. The city should stay on course and wait for those questions to be answered before lifting its moratorium on new licenses. It's the fair, certain, and most efficient path forward. The good news is that the end is in sight. The end is near. A scheduling order in front of the Office of Hearing Examiners, the OHE, is in place, setting a final pretrial conference in the litigation in December, at which time a final trial date will be set. The city has maintained the status quo, awaiting for final action before the OHE, and there is no reason to change course now when the end is near. You might be wondering, why did it take us so long to get here? The Department of Health moved to stay the OHE proceedings pending other litigation, and Puffy's fought that stay vigorously, including pointing out to the OHE that the political pressure, the delay in front of the OHE would have upon this body, the City Council of Rapid City. The stay was granted, however, delaying the OHE process. Puffy's was then stuck waiting on the courts on one hand before it could move forward with the OHE process. That stay has finally been lifted following a South Dakota Supreme Court decision, and the department is now finally taking depositions this coming week. A scheduling order is in place, and the matter of Puffy's dispensary licenses is now nearing resolution. Fairness requires the status quo to be maintained. Puffy's, as well as others, have relied upon the city's position that the status quo would be maintained while the litigation is pending and until it is resolved. Puffy's dispensary licenses remain legally in effect until final resolution through the courts. The South Dakota Supreme Court previously ordered that a licensee may continue operations until the entire appellate process is completed by the courts. That's from NRA Exploration Permit Renewal of Silver King Mines. Rapid City's current position on the moratorium is in line with that Supreme Court precedent. This has been the understanding of both the Department of Health and Puffy's. Puffy's continues to pay its annual state renewal fees to the Department of Health, and the state continues to take those fees while this litigation is pending. Puffy's is entitled to its day in court regarding its renewals. It is worth mentioning that the state denied the renewals, determining that Puffy's was not entitled to an extension of the first-year license. Rapid City has the same requirement in its ordinance, but Rapid City found that Puffy's was entitled to a year extension. To pull the rug out from under Puffy's now, after finding they were entitled to an extension and further indicating that the process would be allowed to play out, would do nothing more than inject additional uncertainty into this process, the final result of which would likely need to be sorted out in the courts, which could cause the OHA hearing to be paused again, with the result being more delay, expense, and uncertainty.
Thank you, sir.
Puffy's is entitled to due process. Thank you.
Next up, Jim Kenyon, followed by Cheyenne Longfox. And Cheyenne, we'll bring a microphone over to you.
Yeah, I'm Jim Kenyon, and here representing Protecting South Dakota Kids, which is the organization that opposed the passage of recreational marijuana in the past couple of times. And very clearly, I hope the City Council has heard the will of the citizens, where almost every county, with the exception of maybe a couple, oppose recreational marijuana. And I think it's really important that you really pay attention to what the testimony was from the gentleman who works for the industry, who stood here and looked at you and flat out, right in your face, showed you the product that he's buying openly. So to pretend like we have a moratorium in the state in Rapid City, South Dakota, with regard to the sales of THC-laced products is ridiculous. We have open recreational marijuana in this city, and your voters have made loud and clear they oppose that. Again, let's go back to the same question. Is Rapid City that much more chronically unhealthy than Sioux Falls that we need twice the number of licenses with half the population? I mean, if you do the math and you just step back and you say, okay, there's 13,000 people, we have, or 900,000 people in the state, and 85,000 live in the Rapid City community or region, and you start saying we have 9 dispensaries, but we only have how many licenses? I mean, on average, these businesses have got must be having about 3 to 4 customers a day on average. There is no way with the overhead that they can afford to do that. So especially when you have not only the illegal market selling this product openly in our faces under the guise of it being hemp, the vast majority of marijuana sales happens illegally, and far from it, what they pretend is that they're going to clean up the market. In which state has that occurred? Absolutely none. 90% of the product that's being sold is coming in by cartels. Helping to move people toward addiction and addiction cycles is crazy. Last couple of things we're going to talk about is, why does this matter? I was a mental health provider for 31 years in this community, working in a sliding scale, low-income organization, trying to provide services to our families, our communities, and our kids. Part of what I did there is I used to do psych holds up at Rapid City Regional. And all of a sudden I started seeing this explosion of the number of kids coming in with psychosis. And I'm going like, what is going on? And I started reading and researching and finding out that really literally kid after kid that came in that was actively psychotic, it went for months. Every one of those kids was using marijuana. The reality is this quadruples, at least doubles, the psychosis rate for our kids. And where we're pretending like we don't want them to get access, again, I want to ask the same question. It's like McDonald's pretending like they don't support hamburger. The reality is, any state that they pass recreational or medical, kids get increased access to that product. And that product has negative
Thank you,
impacts.
Mr. Kenyon. Next we'll have Cheyenne Longfox, followed by Taffy Howard.
My name is Cheyenne Longfox, as has been said. I spent the better part of my 39 years here in Rapid City, and although I'm sitting right now, some of you may have seen me walking around Rapid City, and I'm a motivational speaker, and I've been called an inspiration by some. And part of that inspirational story does include medical cannabis. You may have seen me stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and that wouldn't be possible without the use of medical cannabis. And what I'm here to say today is that access to products that work, just like medicines, have to be given to the right people. And I can honestly say, having been and still being a medical marijuana card holder, that places like Black Hills Cannabis Care should have access, because for some of us, those are where the products that work are. It heals pain, it makes life better, and I wouldn't be here for you to hear my voice if it wasn't for those products. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. Next up, Taffy Howard, followed by Greg Block.
Thank you. Couple of items on the agenda. 41 and 42, the Marshall Heights, commonly being called the Chick-fil-A TIF. I will be the first to tell you, I love Chick-fil-A. I think I'm a red status member on their app, so I eat there a lot when I travel. But again, they do not need public subsidies. They are a very, very profitable large corporation, as are many other parts of this TIF. So I am asking you to oppose that. I'm very passionate about this, but I love Mr. Millar's comments, and I just hope you hear that people are struggling in this community, and all we see is that you keep giving money to the large corporations that don't need it. So I'd ask you to oppose that. There's been several comments already on item number 45, the marijuana moratorium. You know, the comments being made about going from 10 to 15 dispensaries. We don't ever need 15 dispensaries in this city. It was already pointed out, we're a third to a half the size of Sioux Falls. They only have 5 dispensaries. We could make do with 5, but we already have twice that. So I'm asking, and then the other issue, part of the moratorium, is allowing dispensaries to move their locations. In other locations, in other areas like California and Washington where this has been allowed, it's been shown that when you possibly move from a highly visible location to a less visible, less trafficked location, you have an increase in robbery and illegal trafficking. So there are issues that need to be addressed. I'm asking you to keep the moratorium in place and then use this time to come up with some good regulatory oversight to address the issues that may need to be addressed. But I hope and pray that you will never consider going above the number of dispensaries that we already have. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Greg Block, followed by April Anderson.
Mr. Mayor, esteemed city council members, most of you know me, and you know that in most cases I'm for less regulation and keeping the government out of the way of business owners, yet in an industry that is so controversial due to the lack of scientific data that proves that this product is even necessary, it's completely unwise to even consider a complete repeal of the moratorium. Nationally, marijuana is still considered a Schedule I classified substance, and possessing, growing, or selling marijuana is a federal crime. Why is that? Why has the FDA not approved it? What is law enforcement? They're here. What is law enforcement's input on this? What's Monument Health's input on this? What are the emergency room physicians' input on this? How many of your actual constituents who you are a voice for agreed that this is the smartest thing to do? Like the vast majority of the people in this room tonight, I don't think that your voters would agree that repealing the moratorium is the right thing to do. We live in the middle of the country for a reason. because we believe that common sense still reigns in Rapid City. We don't want anyone to Colorado or South Dakota. We don't want anybody to California or South Dakota. We don't want anybody to Oregon or Washington State or New York City or South Dakota. So please don't sell the soul of our great city for a slight bit of temporary revenue at the expense of the health and the safety of our citizens. It's been mentioned before, help us. Help us understand why anyone would ignore that Sioux Falls has a population of 210,000 people, and they have a moratorium of only 5 marijuana dispensaries. That is 1 for every 42,000 people, which is way more than enough considering how many medical marijuana cards have been distributed in the region. Why Rapid City now, with 85,000 people, need 15 licenses for every, well, it works out to 1 for every 5,666 people, 7 times the number that Sioux Falls established. Very few of us thought this was a wise decision to begin with, and even if there are only 9 licenses of that 15 issued, that is still 1 for every 9,444 people, 4.5 times what Sioux Falls has. And Rapid City is supposed to be way more conservative than Sioux Falls. There's a reason why the aldermen of this city council originally declared it's illegal to transfer licenses to a new address or another owner. I hope you'll take time to discuss that this evening before you vote. Please don't throw away the good that you have done for this city with a bad vote that you will be reminded for a long time.
Thank you,
Why
sir.
vote to expand the
Next up,
moratorium? Thank you.
April Anderson, followed by Julie Mueller.
First of all, I thank you that we have this opportunity. I sent to all the council members and to the mayor a handout and some websites to look at. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the dangers and the devastation that this drug does to families, individuals, and especially youth. But I do want to talk about, we've had at least a couple people here that talk about medical marijuana. And most people think when you're talking about medical marijuana, you're talking about what's being sold in these dispensaries. But there is real medicine that you can get from a real pharmacist, that a doctor writes a real prescription for, that is used to treat people that with cancer or have seizures. That is not necessarily, I don't think you can get that materials from the dispensaries. You get that from a real prescription by a real doctor at a real pharmacist. So there's real medicine, and medicine by most doctors will let you know that there's a risk to benefit. And I think some of the people that spoke for that helped their mother's cancer or their own condition, I am all for them having access to medicine that helps them. But that doesn't mean that we let everybody in the whole world have access to this high THC marijuana that destroys brains. The relationship between it and schizophrenia and psychosis, especially in long-term users, is frightening. If you watched my videos I sent you, you won't get them out of your mind. It is absolutely devastating what this drug and the risk to suicide for young people that get into using this regularly. And the earlier they start, the more impairing it is to the brain because they're still developing their brain. I'm not going to talk about the difference between Rapid City and Sioux Falls, but I do want to give you a couple other examples. There was a study done in Texas for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Here's a quote from that study. Marijuana was the substance most identified as actively being used by the perpetrator in 85 cases of child abuse and neglect-related deaths. Marijuana, more than any other drug, increases child abuse, and that is one of my main things as a counselor I have fought against. The other thing that I want to bring up, I just got an article that was from the Wall Street Journal that a doctor sent me, And it's talking about government giving breaks to people. Oh, my time's up.
Ms. Anderson, your time's up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mueller, you're up next, followed by Nathan Ciccone. Did I get that right? You'll correct me if I'm wrong. All right. Chiquan? Okay.
I think it's Shaquan, yeah.
Chiquan. That's even cooler. Ms. Mueller, the time is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the committee. I wasn't going to speak and then I was going to speak, but I first want to just address, I couldn't agree more with Jim Kenyon, April Anderson, and those, and Kurt Voigt, who have spoke about marijuana. What we have is plenty. If we're doubling Sioux Falls, there's a problem with that. So, and I would encourage you to not have any more dispensaries. Again, the young kids that are getting this marijuana, their brains are just seem to be fried, according to a lot of the stuff we'd heard in Pierre when some of these people came and testified in front of the legislature. But I want to go back to TIFs real quick, because everyone knows property taxes are the biggest problem in our state. Statewide, we've known, and TIFs do hurt us. They need to be addressed, and at the Property Tax Task Force, when they were here at the Surbeck Center, they did address that they are looking at the abuse of TIFs there. And I would respectfully ask you all to please rethink supporting any more TIFs. That negatively hurts all of us, the ones you work for that live in this town, in this state. And there's a lot of investors in these businesses. And you're talking about 3 restaurants. Oh, goody, they're coming. Let them come on their own. These businesses are perfectly capable of paying for their way here. We have plenty of local business owners that have restaurants, and it's just not right to go ahead and support somebody else with our tax dollars. So please rethink TIFs. We are addressing them in our abolishing property tax amendment. They are going to be looked at there as well. And I couldn't agree more with Taffy and Tonchi and these guys who have spoken. They've done a great job, and I want to thank them for showing up and fighting for all of us citizens. Thank you.
Okay, Nathan, you're up next, and I'll have you pronounce your last name for me, followed by Keith Rudy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Nathan Shequin.
Shequin.
I am an attorney in town and represent Black Hills Cannabis Care. I come before you to ask that Resolution 24-79 be repealed. My client simply wants to compete in the medical cannabis market. Black Hills Cannabis Care did not bring the resolution forward or the amendment forward. That was actually brought by a current operator, a couple of operators that wanted to strike certain parts of that former resolution, keep some that they liked. And we rose to say, why are we tinkering with this resolution? Let's repeal it. I believe that the amendment is really about over-regulation in government and favoritism. And respectfully, I think the South Dakota way is to limit government overreach and not to play favorites. So the amendment to the resolution, I think, would further favoritism and government regulation. I'm not saying that the city cannot regulate medical cannabis. It certainly can. In fact, it has an ordinance to do that. We have a state law that regulates. We think that the council should rely on state law and its own city ordinance in regulating cannabis. If we look at the current list of license holders, there were 15 initially issued. One of those was revoked. We look at the first 16 licenses. There's one operator that holds 8 of those. Okay, there's 2 other operators that hold 2 each, and 3 separate operators that hold 1. My client is alternate number 5 on the list, which would now be alternate number 4. Really just looking to be able to compete in the market. And so a repeal of the moratorium is not really increasing the number of licenses. There are still 10 active licenses and 5 inactive licenses, which according to the moratorium, those 5 inactive licenses cannot be reallocated. In litigation with the city of Rapid City, which is still pending. The circuit court declared that, that's Judge Scott Retzel declared, that the city has discretion on issuing those licenses. They're not obligated to reissue those to the next in line. And the judge did not look at the moratorium, but specifically looked at the ordinance. So the city will still have some discretion to operate under its ordinance. We just think that the city should not tinker with resolutions to benefit certain operators, but let competition dictate, repeal the moratorium and the resolution, give my client a seat at the table.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Rudy. Last but not least would then be Emmett Reistroffer, or Reistroffer. You'll have to correct me on that one too.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. To further incentivize Rapid City to profit from additional medical marijuana dispensaries, when we have countless science links to depression, IQ loss, increase of suicide, psychosis, schizophrenia, and heart conditions, would not be a good idea for us. The marijuana industry spends millions telling us about their medical products are safe, which are an outright lie. Today's marijuana products can have serious consequences for users of all ages, especially young people. So allowing so-called medical stores that also sell all sorts of confusing products that contain THC, which is commonly found in other states with dispensaries. And so the fact that in Colorado, 83% of medical marijuana dispensaries recommend THC products for pregnant women. Consuming marijuana during pregnancy is dangerous and can inhibit fetal development. 4 months ago, Newsweek, America's marijuana legalization experiment is going up in smoke. Everything that they've promised is lies. And lastly, veterans addicted to marijuana are dying by suicide. Veterans who died by suicide, 35% are, over half of the veterans are diagnosed with cannabis use disorder, and these statistics aren't just numbers. These are lives lost, the lives of people who put their country before themselves. Despite this, the marijuana industry is brazenly promoting its product as effective treatments for veterans' pain, and our veterans deserve better. And lastly, a couple more points. Medical marijuana dispensaries will not mean more money for the city. Again, experiences from other states show that revenue does not meet expectations, that expenses always exceed projections. The increased cost to local law enforcement, addiction resources, mental health programs, medical treatment, and social services program will wipe out any revenue gains. And lastly, no one here needs to pretend or cloak this in capitalism and thus making the rest of us feel guilty by not allowing more businesses to come into town. Crony capitalism or predatory addiction for profit industries is not true capitalism. So don't fall for guilt trips.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Emmett, you're up next. And I've seen your name lots. Will you pronounce it for me?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Emmett Reistroffer.
I got it right the first
Thank
time.
you.
All right.
So I just want to walk through the timeline, which may help everyone just kind of understand how we got here. In September of 2021 is when the Rapid City Council passed the ordinance to allow 15 medical cannabis dispensaries. However, the discussion at the time, if I recall correctly, some of you may remember better than I do, there was discussion about recreational, a much, much bigger market. And I believe that's why the council came up with the number 15. It was based on the population. At that time, recreational was still on the books. Amendment A was still going through the courts. We were all anticipating a potential much bigger market. 2 months later, the Supreme Court overturned that amendment. So that ended that possibility for the time being. The number of 15 remained. And then we proceeded to put it on the ballot in 2022. Voters rejected it. Again in 2024, voters rejected it. We have a lot of strong opinions in the room, obviously. People are passionate both ways about the topic. I point this out just because the latest moratorium was passed last September, I believe, before that last vote. My impression was that's because we all believed at the time that number was an adequate number for the market. We also started to see patient numbers start to decline for the first time since the program began. They've actually now started to come back and increase again. But what I would really encourage the council to do is consider if you repeal this moratorium, we're back to 15, a number that was thrown out at a time when recreational was a real possibility. That is not a possibility right now, legislatively or politically, at least for 2 to 3 years. Who knows, but it's not in front of us today. If you keep the moratorium in effect, we stay at the number of 9, which I believe is an adequate number for the amount of patients that we serve. If we monitor those card numbers and numbers increase, I think it could get to as high as 30 to 40,000 South Dakotans based on the prevalence of the debilitating conditions that are authorized to use medical cannabis. But we're only at about 13,000 patients today. So I don't believe we do need to add another 6 dispensaries, and this is coming from someone who is also on that alternate list and would get 2 more licenses. So I actually stand to gain a lot. But what I didn't want to have happen is what's happening today, is we've kind of rattled the cage now with the community, and we're rehashing this topic that I really don't think is not what we intended, at least when we started talking about license transfers. So to wrap up, what I'm hoping you'll do is focus on the resolution that was on the agenda at Legal and Finance. That was the segue to this. That was the regulation,
Thank
or
you,
the
Mr. Rice-Dropper.
resolution we should have been talking about tonight. Thank you.
So that will conclude the end of our comment period. So we will close the public comment and move on to item 35. First reading of ordinance number 6677, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. A request by Renner Associates LLC for Martinez Development LLC for rezoning request from medium density residential district to light industrial district for property generally described as being located at 865 North Valley Drive. Got a motion by Liebman with a second by Roberts to approve. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Item 36. First reading of ordinance number 6678, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. A request by Renner Associates LLC for Martinez Development LLC for rezoning request from medium density residential district to general commercial district for property generally described as being located at 865 North Valley Drive. Motion by Sechrist, second by Roberts. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 37. First reading of ordinance number 6670, an ordinance to identify the city leadership team and acknowledge the mayor's ability to administratively determine the supervision and reporting structure of the city departments and division by adding section 2.12.080 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. This had been continued from the June 2nd, 2025 council meeting. Motion by Tamang with a second by Bieberdorf to approve. All in favor? Somebody in the queue? Any opposed? All right, let's go to the roll call, please. Heidi?
Lehman? No. Maher? Yes. Roberts? No. Strommen?
No.
Pettigrew?
No.
Sechrist?
No.
Bieberdorf?
Yes.
Tamang?
Yes.
Evans?
No.
Meyer? Motion fails 3-7.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to item 38. First reading of ordinance number 6671, an ordinance amending chapter 2.40 of the Rapid City Municipal Code to rename the finance officer to the chief financial officer and modify the job descriptions of the position. This was also continued from the June 2nd, 2025 city council meeting. All right, motion by Bieberdorf, second by Tamang. We'll go to a roll call vote, please. Actually, let me hear you out. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion fails by volume. All right, item 38, first reading of ordinance number 6672, an ordinance amending chapter 2.44 of the Rapid City Municipal Code to rename the Department of Public Works to the Department of Public Operations. This item was also continued from the June 2nd, 2025 council meeting. Do we have a motion? Is that a motion by Maher? The second by Tamang. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion fails. Item 40, request by the Black Hills Area Council of Boy Scouts of America, Inc. for the City of Rapid City to transfer ownership of 144 North Street, the property where their local offices are currently located. The recommendation was to send to you without recommendation. We will first go to Councilor Bieberdorf.
I'd make a motion to approve. If I get a second, retain the floor.
Second. All right, we have a motion by Bieberdorf with a second by Evans to approve. The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, I would speak in favor of this. I know I've talked to a lot of people on the council about precedent. I don't know any precedent where the Boy Scouts or any nonprofit entity has had 4 decades-ish of use of a building, improvements, and all they've done to it without owning the land underneath it. So I think it's a quandary. I don't know if there's any other precedent for that. There's been a lot of precedent in the past of city, donating land to whether it's Block 5 or Girls Inc. or YMCA or different very, good projects in our city as well. I was a scout as well, Eagle Scout, kids are scouts. Scouts make a significant investment in the community. They're always, we're doing food drives, we're cleaning the parks up, Eagle service projects, leadership qualities for both young women, young men. The city gives a lot to different downstream issues, whether it's Cornerstone or Wavy or addiction. How about we put some money into the youth of the community, build them up, make them strong leaders. One of the merit badges that I personally counsel is citizenship in the community, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here, because I went to a meeting like this when I was in Boy Scouts, and we have citizenship in the community, we have citizenship in the nation. The leadership skills that are taught to both young men and women are just impeccable, and I think it's just one of those things that's a real weird quandary that this committee tonight has the ability to rectify. And I know we can talk about the money the city would lose or the conspiracy theory of that, but let's invest a piece of property that's really marginal at best. And if it wasn't for the Boy Scouts putting the blood, sweat, and tears in it for 4 decades, it would be nothing. So I'd ask for everybody's support tonight.
Okay, next up we'll go to Councilor Pettigrew.
Thank you, Mayor. No doubt about it, the Boy Scouts have done a great job. So my concerns aren't about how they do things and what they've done. My concern is we don't know the value of the property. Is it worth $50,000? Is it worth $200,000? I think before we make a decision and give property away, at least in my business, I'm a good businessman, I want to know the value of what we're giving away, and we don't know that. So I don't know how, if we have to have that appraised. We have a council person who's a commercial realtor. He could do a study on that, but I think we need to know the value of the property. I reached out to our city finance officer, and thank you, Daniel, he even got back with me on Sunday. I wanted to know how many other properties are in similar situations, because what we do for this group, are the rest going to step up and say, well, you did it for the Boy Scouts, now how about us? And we have 12 to 15 other properties that are in similar situations, and that concerns me. Rapid City seems to be pretty eager to give property away. And it's an asset, we can sell it, the city can use the money. If the Boy Scouts take it and want to sell it, then maybe we should get part of the proceeds, but I just have a hard time just giving something away when we don't know the value. And so I would ask that we somehow, before we act on this, come up with a value. Thank you.
Next up, Councilor Strommen.
Thank you, Mayor. Following up on what Mr. Pettigrew said, I'd like to make a substitute motion to continue this for 1 month, and if I can get a second, retain the floor.
So, motion by Strommen with it. Well, who's the second? Second. Okay, Roberts. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. It's kind of the same thing that Mr. Pettigrew said. I don't think we're ready to be in a position to make a wise decision here. We need to, nothing against the Boy Scouts, they're a fine organization. They've produced a lot of fine citizens in this room have come through the Boy Scouts, and it's just that at this point, I'm not ready to be giving away land that's owned by the city without knowing what the value of the land is, having a plan for if the Boy Scouts were to be transfer the land to them, if they would make a turnaround and the Sioux Falls chapter would say, okay, you need to sell that now if you're going to join up with us, or whatever might happen. I just think we need more information before we make a decision on that. I think it would be prudent for us to do that, and I do think it would be a dangerous precedent to do this without doing our due diligence before doing it. And I also think there's other options that would be available that should do about the same thing. If I don't know if it's in terms of a long-term lease for a nominal value or whatever, where they would have the right to continue to operate at that site if they needed to. But for now, I just would like to be able to have a little more time to consider this and what the options and ramifications are. So I yield.
Thank you. Next up, Councilor Maher.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to point out, I'm tired of us delaying things all the time because we don't do our homework. This property has a really no value to the city. It's not generating any taxes. It's the reason it's nonprofit. We're giving it to the Boy Scouts. They've had it for 40 years. This is not a big deal. This is something that allows their merger to go through, and I'm opposed to the delay.
Okay. And next up, Councilor Temeng.
Yeah, I thank you, Mayor. I also don't see the point of waiting for an evaluation just because the value of the land is what someone's willing to pay for it. And frankly, as far as precedent, I don't think donating land or giving subsidies really sets a precedent because each member of this body elected by certain people get to make the determination on what they think is appropriate. So you're going to have a different group for everything, and that's the way it's meant to be. So just because the elected officials here feel that it's warranted for this doesn't mean that they'll feel that it's warranted for others. I wasn't sure how I was going to vote on this initially, but I heard what I needed to hear. I heard that the Scouts are going to stay here. They're going to continue to support this community with quite a bit of conviction. And so to me, I don't think this land is worth a considerable economic amount, and I think that the constituents, I've heard a lot of constituents say they appreciate the Boy Scouts, and I hear from Josh, it's similar things, and so I too would support the original idea of donating it, and I would oppose the delay.
Okay, next up, Councilor Sechrist.
Thank you, Mayor. I too was undecided on this item, specifically just not having the cost estimate or any way to establish what this property value might be. And I did look it up on the Pennington County auditor's page and tried to do a property search. So I did do my homework. But in listening to the testimony here tonight, I am also in support of this. I feel like the public benefit and the interest of this is outweighing in this situation. It's a very small land parcel. It's abutting drainage canal. There's no improvements to the land parcel itself, and the Boy Scouts have been very dedicated and have maintained this piece of land over the past 4 decades, and so I'm ready to move forward with this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other speaker requests, so we will go to a roll call vote. Heidi, the motion on the floor is to continue, the substitute motion is to continue this to the first city council meeting in September. Let's go to a roll call vote on that one.
Pettigrew?
Aye.
Sechrist? No. Bieberdorf?
No.
Temeng? No. Evans?
No.
Meyer? Lehman?
Aye.
Maher?
No.
Roberts?
Aye.
Strommen?
Aye.
Tied.
We got a tie, and Mayor's voting no. So with that, we'll go to the original motion on the floor. And with that, let's go back to a roll call vote, please.
Lehman?
No.
Maher?
Yes.
Roberts? Strommen,
No.
Pettigrew,
No.
Seacrest, Beaverdorf, Tamang, Evans, Meyer.
Chair votes aye. Moving on to item 41, resolution number 2025-081, a resolution creating Marshall Heights Tract Tax Increment Financing District. Looking for a motion or comments? Councilors, excuse me, who is the motion? Motion by Tamang with a second by Lehman to approve. With that, we'll go to Councilor Seacrest for comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to ask if Mike Dugan can come up and speak to us on this, to share with us the project plan and some detailed information on this item.
Mr. Dugan, do you have that material available or off the top of your head?
We had talked about this at Legal Finance and
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have the project plan. I can speak to some of the high points.
Okay.
Thank you.
So what this district is, the components is funding to demolish and remove the current structures located at 1902 North La Crosse Street, which is currently a restaurant and an older hotel. The kind of the major public improvements of this TIF is it's recognized. There was a traffic study completed on this area for the development to happen, or proposed development 1902 La Crosse. Is the traffic was a concern. So with these TIF funds, a portion would go to putting in the right-hand churn lane into the development from North La Crosse, a traffic signal at Luna and Eglin that would not only help development in this area, but also help Rushmore Crossing with the congestion there. And then also an extension from Luna Avenue that would get you to Rapp Street. And then also a portion of these funds would be used for a police precinct at 120 Knollwood to help with, have a police presence in North Rapid.
Ms. Seacrest, the floor is still yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
There you go.
Thank you for that overview, Mr. Dugan. We really appreciate that. I'm in support of this project. I think that this is really a prime example of an infill from an underutilized blighted area that we're able to creatively recapture some of these tax revenues and make some really critical public improvements into North Rapid City, including the police precinct and expanding our police force in that area for expanded public safety. I would like to thank Mike and our city finance officer, Daniel Ainsley, for their creative thinking in this. I know that right now there's a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of concern for the TIF process, and I am also in agreement that Rapid City has had a lot of TIFs lately, and I would really like to see that slow down. I think that it's not setting a good impression, and that we really need to be objective when we're reviewing these. But this particular project, I do believe that the public improvements and the benefit to the community are significant, and that I'm in support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Councilor Evans.
Well, in my 6 years on the council, I can say that I think this is absolutely the worst, most useless TIF that's ever come before us. And it is exactly what the anti-TIF people talk about all the time. Now, I've approved a lot of these and been in favor of them because I see a $900,000 piece of land developed, and it's then appraised at $80 million with homes or something. I don't see how tearing down a 300-room hotel and replacing it with 3 fast food joints is going to increase our tax base, nor do I see that those places generating anywhere near the kind of income that a retro restored hotel would generate. So I think this is, like I said at Legal Finance, a total boondoggle, completely unnecessary, especially given the fact that it's an out-of-town developer. This project, if they want to go forward with it on their own, do it with their own money, but I'm not going to be partial to this, so I'm going to vote no.
And next up, Councilor Pettigrew.
Thank you, Mayor. I would echo Mr. Evans' comments. I have other concerns as well. I do believe if we say no to a TIF every now, it's still going to happen. The developers don't always have to have it. If it's such a great project, they can do it without. I'm concerned about the traffic in that development. I've had lengthy discussions in the past with the Department of Transportation of that new bridge they put across there. I personally think that's just a big boondoggle. It's confusing. And I was in happened to be down in Denver over the weekend visiting my daughter, and we went through a Chick-fil-A. I've never been to one before. I guess they're good. But they have 37 cars behind us. How is all that traffic going to work there at that intersection? I think that's going to be a problem. So I would hope, this is going to pass, I would just hope that people understand the volume that restaurant generates is going to create a problem no matter where you put it. And I think that intersection is going to be a huge problem. There's a misunderstanding among the community. I think it was rolled out wrong. Everyone believes that Chick-fil-A and Panda Express and whoever else is going there is getting the TIF. They aren't. The developer is getting the TIF. These restaurants are going to go in that development. So I suppose in a roundabout way you could say they're benefiting, but really it's developer getting the TIF and not the restaurants. I just don't want misinformation out there because that's unfair to those restaurants. So I will be voting against this.
Councilor Maher.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be supporting this TIF. And as Mr. Pettigrew just said, this TIF is not building 3 fast food restaurants. This TIF is all about the infrastructure. Whether or not whatever happens, that motel, I stayed there 40 years ago, and I don't know that they've remodeled it since. It's had 3 names in the last 10 years. It sits empty. Now, what I would like to say is the misinformation that we hear about TIFs is it's all about, oh, we're giving the taxpayers are paying to build a Chick-fil-A. No, we're not. We're adding to a road, we're lengthening a road, which creates more opportunity for that commercial property that's along Luna Street. We're putting a stoplight on Luna right outside of Sam's Club on that Rushmore Crossing, which is a zoo and really needs a stoplight. And we are going to pay for our new police precinct station. And there will be additional property taxes generated as this new land is developed, not only for where the hotel is, but in that Luna going through. There's more commercial land right now back there that nobody can get to. So I will be supporting this.
Thank you. Next up, Councilor Roberts.
Thank you. In my 14 years on this council, this is not nearly the worst TIF I've ever seen, not even close to the worst TIF I've ever seen. In fact, this TIF, especially for my ward, is a great development. This motel, like Kevin just alluded to, this motel's changed hands many times in the last 10 years. And this is a property without this TIF, it will not be a new improvement. No developer is going to come in and tear that motel down and put a development in there without the infrastructure they need. And speaking of Chick-fil-A and not having room, they'll have plenty of room. That lot's 7.5 acres. It's a big lot. That motel is spread out on it kind of strangely. And there's plenty of room for the development on there. But the one thing that we're not talking about is the fact that the taxes that are there now, that are going down every year on that property because it's a blighted property, will be froze now. So what we are getting currently will get, which if we let that sit undeveloped for the next 10 or 20 years, it'll just keep decreasing in value. So also the undeveloped land that's in the area is going to help pay off the TIF. Also, the $1 million that we're getting for our new police station in North Rapid that we've needed for decades is going to be paid through this TIF. There is so much misinformation about TIFs. It just drives me insane I think everybody in Rapid City knows from North Rapid, we're probably have the worst property taxes in Rapid City, which have nothing to do with the TIF. They have to do with the valuations of our homes going up 30, 40% in the last 5 years. If you really want to find the problem's in the assessments, but it's really not in that, because the assessments went up because people wanted to move to Rapid City. It's called supply and demand. People are willing to pay these prices for these homes. Now, that being said, if you want lower property taxes, that has to come from the state. We always, we do at the TIF, we get 18% of the property tax. The county, the county and the school system get more than we do. But again, what are they losing? We're freezing the taxes that are on there right now. We're only collecting taxes that are going to be generated on a project that no way would ever happen without this TIF. So I'm supporting it. I support it 100%. If it came across again tomorrow, I'd support it. If it came across again a year from now, I'd support it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councilor Roberts. With that, the motion on the floor is to approve. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Aye. Motion passes with 2 noes from Evans and Pettigrew. Next, item 42, a resolution number 2025-082, a resolution approving the project plan for the Marshall Heights Tract Tax Increment Financing District. We got a motion by Roberts with a second by Councilor Evans, please. We got a motion by Roberts, a second by Tamang. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Aye. Motion passes with 2 noes from Evans and Pettigrew. Item 43, a request by AMM Rapid City LLC for preliminary subdivision plan for lots A through E of Lot K-4A of Marshall Heights Tract subdivision, generally described as being located at 1902 North La Crosse Street. The recommendations to approve with stipulations. And a motion by Lehman with a second by Roberts to approve with stipulations. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Aye. Motion carries 1 no from Pettigrew. Item 44, request by TUI Design Group for KTA Properties LLC for preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots 1 through 3 of Block 6 of Chamber Section 9 NW1-4NE I kept saying dash, but /1-4 subdivision, generally described as being located southeast of the intersection of Twin Elms Drive and Chambers Street. The recommendations to approve with stipulations. Motion by Sechrest with a second by Maher. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 45. I would like to go to the city attorney. City Attorney, would you please restate the motion that we had approved earlier, just for clarification, please? Stand by. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. The recommendation from the committee was actually to just repeal the entire moratorium on dispensary, the issuance or the transfer of dispensary licenses, and was not to approve the attached resolution that had been submitted by Alderman Strommen.
Thank you. It's been a while since we heard that, so I wanted to make sure we knew what we were discussing, and then of course you have the original request as well. Councilor Tamang, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Mayor. When reviewing this particular item, it became abundantly clear to me that nobody is happy with the way medical marijuana is being handled. I don't think the city is happy with it. I don't think the constituents are happy with it. I don't think our enforcement agencies are happy with it, and shockingly, I don't even think our special interests are happy with it. And so for that reason, when we're kind of dinking around with this moratorium, I feel like it's necessary to kind of get back to the heart of the issue. We've had a lot of time to see how things develop, and so I'm going to like to make a motion to direct the city attorney's office to review the city's medical marijuana dispensary ordinances, including the authorized number of licenses and the scope of municipal authority under state law, and to return with findings and recommendations informed by the mayor's policy direction. And I further move to postpone consideration of this item until those recommendations are presented to the council. And if there's a second.
Okay, well, so what I wrote down, trying to follow you here, is a motion on the floor by Tamang with a second by Evans to direct the city attorney to review an ordinance to include the number of licenses, scope of authority in state law, something about the mayor, but I...
With findings and recommendations
Okay.
informed by your office.
Okay, so my opinion
Your
combined.
opinion.
All
yes.
right.
The bottom line is I think we need to get back to the truth of the issue, because when like it's been stated, there is a very genuine need for medical marijuana, and we can argue about like the scope and scale of that, but there is a need for it. But the idea of 15 licenses is pretty absurd. I think everyone agrees with that. So we should get back to well, pretty much everybody disagrees with that. I think we should get back to crafting the original laws in a way that makes sense. And, you know, a forever moratorium, I mean, it's bad governance. It's conceptually contradictory. And I think it leads to playing favorites. I think it leads to some ethical concerns and public distrust. And so I think we need to take a step back, see what's capable, because there's litigation going on. There's state law that's changed. I think we need to get a much deeper evaluation for the attorney's office in coordination with the mayor's office, bring it back so that we can try to craft something precise and then go forward from there. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Councilor Strommen.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is now the third different shot we're taking at the same agenda item. This was originally brought in front of Legal and Finance for an amendment to the ordinance. And then the vote at the Legal and Finance Committee was just to abolish the moratorium. And now we've got Councilor Tamang coming up with yet a third. And I would just like, for clarification purposes, to note that this says that I brought this forward. I brought this forward to Legal and Finance at the request of some constituents who appeared before City Council, just so we could get the decision made. And then we didn't end up having a decision made on what they asked for a decision to be made on. And so we had a different decision made, and now Councilor Tamang wants yet more work to go in when we've already heard from aldermen tonight that say we don't need to have continuances all the time, you just do your homework. We agonized over these ordinances for years before you were ever on the council. And so I just want to say, whatever you do, let's get something finalized here. I am fortunate to have recognized the conflict of interest, so I'm going to abstain just like I did at the Legal and Finance Committee meeting.
Okay. Councilor Evans.
I want to thank Mr. Tamang for very eloquently stating what the problem is. Thank you for doing that, because this is really the issue. Is our original ordinance that we drafted was flawed and no longer relevant. For a history lesson for everybody, if you recall, I was the one that proposed one city-owned dispensary. That went down in flames. And then Mr. Lehman and I believed that, well, if that didn't work, let the market determine it. So we said, oh, how do we set a limit on this? And after half a year of discussion or more, they came up with the number 15. So we don't want to hear people talking about how Sioux Falls has 12 billion people and 2 dispensaries, and we've got 4 people and 20 dispensaries. That doesn't matter. That's not the question here. The question is, are we going to follow the law that we passed back in 2021, or are we going to actually get rid of it and change it and come up with a new number of these dispensaries that we think is valid? And I think that's what we should do, and that's the reason I seconded your motion there. So the question also is not whether or not marijuana is useful or not. People have been spending all this time, and we spent an hour and a half hearing testimonies as to whether the merits of using it or not are valid. As a person who's never even tried one joint, I can say I don't really care because I don't have any need for it. But I don't think that's the point in this discussion. We spent a lot of time discussing something that's really not part of the vote. So I'm going to support Mr. Tamang's motion right now because I think it's a great thing and solve this problem forever. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Councilor Sechrist.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought it was still a couple on the list, so I was zoning out here thinking. I agree with Mr. Evans wholeheartedly in his comments here in that this has been taken into the scope and measure of things that it's not what we're considering. So the city is holding this moratorium pending this Supreme case outcome. And And we've had some results from that. We do still have some litigation pending, but in my mind, that I feel like releasing the moratorium is the first step, and just letting the license people that have committed their livelihoods and submitted in for a license, just as everyone did, with equal opportunity, to let that shake out and the chips fall as they may. And then we come back as a city and say, hey, we don't need 15 licenses. The likelihood of us not needing that many licenses is very high. We're not here to determine the merits of medical marijuana, or the people of South Dakota spoke on that, that they've legalized that. And so as a community, we now are tasked with enforcing how many licenses, which was established well beyond my time here in 2021. And so we're left with dealing with what we have in state law right now. And I feel like the process, in all fairness to the applicants who have submitted license applications, releasing the moratorium is the right thing to do right now, and let the chips fall, issue the licenses. We're not going to have 9, maybe 10 operating dispensaries. And then I would predict a couple of those perhaps closing down, because we just don't have the need for that many licenses. And then, hey, let's as a community come back in and rein that number in to whatever that number is. But right now we're picking winners and losers, as been said. And I don't think the process has been fair as the ordinance was established. And us holding this moratorium only prevents us from releasing the license holders that are in queue there, or in line to get the alternate licenses. We've had 3 years now. I think that it's time to just make this happen. I also, just out of personal note, I think the real danger here is the CBD shops, the smoke shops that are selling the synthetic drugs, that we need to enforce those locations, and those need to be stopped. That anyone off the street that's 18, I'm assuming, can go in there and purchase those products. I think we need to refocus our direction to where the real danger is here. This medical marijuana is regulated and does require license to go in and purchase products. Thank you.
Councilor Maher.
Thank you, Mayor. I would have certainly supported Alderman Strommen's resolution had it made it successfully to the agenda. I know it's on the agenda, but we know we have an error on the agenda. Because I do think the moratorium should stay in place. My fear was that if Puppies LLC would have won their litigation, they're going to come back to the city and say, give us our 5 licenses. The state said we get them. And we would have 15 other ones out there. Now we're going to have, knowing this council, now we'll just go at 20. So as we've heard the statistics enough tonight, we don't need more dispensaries right now. We can afford to leave the moratorium on. I liked Councilman Tamang's suggestion. When this 15 number was arrived at, the council at the time thought recreational was coming, and it never came. So we know that maybe we should go back and revisit the number 15. If we were to allow 15 dispensaries in Rapid City, there would be 1 dispensary for every 89 cards. That'd be ridiculous. Right now, with our 9 licenses, we have 150 cards per dispensary. So that means that every dispensary's got to average 5 customers a day just to get to the, and that means every card holder is going to the dispensary at least once a month. I don't know how often they go. So anyway, I would have supported Councilman Strommen's resolution to keep the moratorium, and I will also I think Councilman Tamang's idea. Let's go back and start and look at that number 15. We don't need to spend 6 months doing it. We can look at the rest of the state. Right now, there's 13,500 medical cards in South Dakota, 64 dispensaries. So that's in the entire state. We have 200 patients per dispensary, and in Rapid City we have a much stronger ratio than that. I mean, fewer patients per dispensary. So we have too many. I think all the owners said that. So Thank you.
Councilor Roberts.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion, and if I can get a second, I'd like to hold the floor. I'd like to make a substitute motion to remove the moratorium. And the reason that I'm doing this, and I've said this over and over again because I've been here from the beginning of this, I think that we crafted a fairly decent, at the time, ordinance. I think a lot of things happened in the meantime that we didn't expect. If you all, I guess there's only a couple here that were there back then, would have taken my advice and just had no limit on licenses, we wouldn't have had this problem, and let the free market take care of it. And I guarantee you we wouldn't have had more than what we have right now, because nobody in their right mind is going to put in more locations with this many customers. And that's what I said a year ago. I said, before this moratorium, let's put these licenses out for a year, like it's in the ordinance. After a year, if these people aren't keeping the licenses and nobody else wants any, let's go in and remove some of them. But we keep moving this goalpost and we keep changing things all the time. And now I respect my council person to my side, but we're going to kick it down the road and we're going to start from scratch. And it's going to be nothing but a pain in everybody's butt when this could very easily take care of itself. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
All right. City Attorney would like to chime in.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, based on Alderman, Kevin's comments, I just wanted to say, I think it is noticed on the agenda, Alderman Strommen's motion. So if you did want to approve his proposed resolution, I think you could still approve his proposed resolution.
But we got two other things stacked on top
Well,
of
you've
it
got
right
two
now.
other things, but
We got three
the
other
comments
ones
made
stacked
were,
on top of it.
The comments made were that because of that we couldn't. I think you could. I mean, actually,
Yeah.
to go back to Ms. Weaver's comments earlier, I mean, arguably that is what is noticed on the agenda. I think there's enough that the marijuana licensing is going to be discussed. It's a proposed agenda. I'm not saying you can't vote on the moratorium tonight, because there was obviously a lot of publicity and notice, and there's people here that spoke on it, but you could consider that the original resolution that was submitted as well. That is another option.
All right, thank you. We'll go to Councilor Bieberdorf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't support the repealing the moratorium. I will support to keep it in place. You just look across the nation. I would ask anybody who's looked at a town that says, man, I'm so glad we looked back and thought that we had more marijuana shops in our town. Right now in Colorado, I think 67% of the towns have repealed or have an ordinance where they don't allow it in their town anymore. Just tell me one town where you look back and said, man, this was a really good decision we made. We talk about protecting, free enterprise, free business, all this stuff. We're here to protect the community as well. So I'm definitely not in support of repealing the moratorium.
Okay, and going back to Councilor Tamang for 2 minutes, 30 seconds.
Thank you. Listening to the groans from some of my colleagues when talking about going back to the original ordinance, I understand. It's going to be a lot. It's a lot for the legal team, but this is something we really need to get correct. It's something that we really don't want to dink around with. I mean, if you release the moratorium, you will get more licenses issued. It'll happen. I don't know how many. And the idea that, well, the market will sort it out. A lot of times people have quite a bit of staying power. The market works as a global force over time with a very large sample. One city is not a sample to say, oh, the market's going to sort it out. We're not perfect competition here. You could have very strange market patterns where you could have 15 dispensaries that don't make any money and they could hang on. So the idea that the market's going to sort it, it seems a little short-sighted to me, fellas. And so I think getting back to the ordinance is right. I don't think it was a decent ordinance. I think that's quite a statement. But I think it's maybe it was decent at the time based on the idea of recreational, maybe. That didn't happen. Recreation isn't here. So it is no longer a decent ordinance, and certainly the moratorium was necessary because if you didn't put that in place, it would be a real mess. Again, nobody's happy. Let's fix the problem. Let's go through the pain to fix the problem. And let's not, someone said kicking it down the road. Actually, what I'm saying is the exact opposite of that. So let's get to the bottom and fix it. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to deal with the motions in order here, with the most recent being the substitute motion by Roberts with a second by Lehman to remove the moratorium. Heidi, I would like to go to a roll call vote, please.
Lehman. Maher.
No.
Roberts.
Aye.
Strommen.
Abstain.
Pettigrew.
No.
Seacrest. Bieberdorf.
No.
Tamang. Evans.
Aye.
Meyer.
So motion fails 5-4 with one abstention from Strommen to remove the moratorium. So that takes us to then the next motion, which was from Tamang, which was to direct the city attorney to basically redo this ordinance, to review the ordinance, include the number of licenses and the scope of authority in the state, bring back some recommendation to the city council for discussion. And so on this item, we're going to go to Councilor Roberts.
Thank you very much. I would like to talk to whoever brought the original resolution forward. I think it was Kip. Kip, was it you?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council.
So I believe you brought this forward because you have a location that you're going to lose your lease on. You wanted to be able to move your license to a different location.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, point of clarification. Yes, Puffy's benefits from transferring a location, but this is a culmination of the existing license holders in Rapid City. So Genesis Farms has multiple locations where they testified on having the opportunity for transfer of location, and then also the opportunity for transfer purchase. West River Dispensary, or West River Farms Dispensary, sorry, came and sent a letter about transfer of location and purchase. I've had conversations with other dispensary owners who unfortunately aren't here because they're out of state, that have asked that as well. So it's not just Puffy's Dispensary asking for that. It's a culmination of 8 out of the 9 current licenses that are are in operation today.
Okay, that was my question. I wanted to know.
Sorry.
Yep, original. I should have watched Legal and Finance. Yeah, I know. I heard, but I didn't watch it all. Thank you.
No worries.
Okay, Vicki Fisher from our Community Development Division would like to weigh in.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, with the motion maker, just a point of clarity. So when you say that you want clarification on an ordinance, we stood that up twofold. One is the zoning regulations. We address cultivation, manufacturing, and dispensaries. There were some long working sessions with council. In almost all instances, those are a conditional use permit. Very few of those locations in dispensaries are permitted, and only when they meet separation requirements for a multitude of things. Then based on state regulations, as also adopted in our ordinance, there is strict requirements for air quality, security, fire, and that list goes on. Even the vestibule that you have to come in and be separated from everyone before you're then allowed into the building. So is that what you want to see that we come back and look at? Or is it the licensing ordinance when the council reviewed this as a medical cannabis? And I will share with you, I helped work those work sessions. They looked at the number of pharmacies that are currently in the city limits and took that number down significantly, thinking that this is what would be fair and marketable for a medical cannabis license only. So is it the license and the ordinance, or just the licensing?
Yeah,
Thank
I believe I understood it to be licensing. Is that correct? Okay. All right. Thank you. And Councilor Pettigrew.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe I'm gonna muddy the waters here a little bit. I'm assuming with what's on the table and whatever passes, I mean, this is gonna be an attorney's dream because it's gonna be a legal nightmare. And so would another alternative, another motion, be to adopt Resolution 2024-0/9, Strommen's resolution, and put leave the moratorium on and not set a date? Let's see what the court says. Won't that help us decide what the city wants to do? Let's see what the Supreme Court's going to do. I guess someone said it's in motion, and let them decide. And to Councilman Tamang's point, we'd have some clarification, Stephen, and maybe that would be the time to address the city's policy on this. So that would be my motion.
Okay. Well, I'm not quite sure that was a motion just yet, but I think he has the makings of it. Councillor Tamang.
Yeah, for whatever time I have left, I think if you define moratorium, we're talking about something that's supposed to be temporary, that is related to a particular issue, and I think the 15 number that keeps coming about is because of the idea of recreational. And so what I keep hearing is this concept of a forever moratorium. That's basically kind of what we're saying. And again, I'm going to point out that that's bad governance. This is my third week on the council, but I'm pointing out that forever moratoriums are bad. And the lack of transparency, again, stifling innovation and public distrust. And so I would encourage this not to not be changed. And I would encourage getting to the root of the problem. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Roberts, going back to you, sir.
Thank you. I'll make that substitute motion for Rod. I think I understand what he was trying to say, and if I'm wrong, Rod.
Are you saying that your motion's the original motion in item 45?
Yes.
Okay. And is a second by you, Pettigrew? All right, so the motion by Roberts with a second from Pettigrew is the request from Alderman Strommen to consider the attached resolution number 2025-090, resolution to amend the medical cannabis moratorium, allowing an existing dispensary licensee to apply to move locations or sell to a new ownership group. So that's the new substitute motion on the floor. Councillor Pettigrew, the floor is back to you.
I understand Councilman Tamang's concern about that. It's not forever. Once the court's going to set the date, once the court hears the evidence or whatever they do there and they decide, then we got to come back and address it again. So it's not a forever moratorium, but we can't set a date because we don't know how long the court's going to take.
All right. Now we're going to Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor. Would the motion maker on that last motion be willing to amend his motion to remove the last paragraph of the item? Be it further resolved that except as amended hereby, the Common Council otherwise upholds, ratifies, and affirms resolution number 2024-079. Would you be willing to approve the resolution without this item?
What's that?
Approve this resolution without that last paragraph?
And reasoning for it. Just give me the reasoning for that.
I don't support the moratorium, so I don't want to reaffirm that I do.
Oh, yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right, so you want to approve it, but get rid of the moratorium too?
No, it's the last paragraph in the language of the item.
Yeah, I'm just sorry, I'm reading my summary sheet right here. Okay, so thank you.
We're just approving the very original legal and finance request with the removal of the last paragraph.
That says we support. Moratorium's already in effect.
Okay.
Some of us that don't.
So but for the sake of the public, the resolution that's attached, which is approved, but they would like to remove an item that says, be it further resolved that except as amended hereby, the Common Council otherwise upholds, ratifies, and affirms resolution number 2024-079, which I'm assuming is the moratorium. But City Attorney, would you please weigh in?
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, the purpose of that language, and Alderman Strommen drafted it, so I think he can weigh in, but I think the purpose of it is to say that, you know, other than the modification in the preceding paragraph, that the moratorium would remain in effect. But if you remove that, It's still, the resolution only modifies that one portion, so it would be my opinion the moratorium, even with the removal of that paragraph, would remain in effect. Without a clear vote of the council to repeal the moratorium, I think even with the removal that it would still be in effect.
So for the sake of clarity, then the issue on the table is whether it can be transferred or sold to a different location.
Correct.
And that's really what we're talking about here now with this new substitute motion, is about the ability to transfer to a different location. Okay, Councilor Strommen, you're back in.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for clarification, I did not draft this document, but when Mr. Jeffries and some other operators had come and asked for a change in, so that they would be able to transfer to a different location, so they would not be held hostage to a landlord if that came up, where they said, you know, you're gonna have to pay whatever you got because you can't go anywhere according to this ordinance. So I asked Mr. Jeffries to forward me what he thought should be in there, so this is what he forwarded to me. And now I've since spoken with Councilman Lehman. He does not like that paragraph, and that's what the motion is to remove that last paragraph, because he never has liked the moratorium, and neither has Councilman Roberts, and I respect that, and so that's all I have to say.
So just for clarification's sake, this is a motion, just an amendment to, a friendly amendment to the substitute motion by Roberts and Pettigrew to allow the transfer, but keep that moratorium in place, essentially, but with Lance's obviously input. All right, Councilor Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a clarifying question. Are we able to pass Councilor Roberts' proposal in addition to Councilor Tamang's, so they can be in parallel, where we can make the amendments and then also work towards in a different ordinance? Or
I think we can do one item at a time.
I just mean by the end of tonight, like we're able, like one doesn't cancel out the other.
Here's what I'll say. I'll direct the city. You don't have to direct the city attorney. What I've heard from you all tonight, listening to allowing this discussion, has been wild. I do think we need to deal with it. I obviously also have policy input into that, but we'll bring a recommendation to you that you can then debate. So you may not like the number of licenses I'm going to recommend or the manner, but at least you'll have something to have a more hearty discussion so that we don't have the forever moratorium. We can resolve this issue one way or the other. Instead, keep tonight's issue just about the issue right in front of us, which is about the transfer of the license to a different location. If that's all right, I'll commit to that, and we'll bring it back in September. We'll do in September.
2027.
Well, I don't think it's going to be as. We're going to keep the zoning stuff the way it is, but I already have a thought of what I want to see. So, yeah, 27. That would be government speak, but.
I think without the zoning
Without the zone, yeah, we don't have to deal with the zoning, just how we're going to deal with these licenses, but also with respect to the people who have existing licenses, trying to keep us out of court as much as we possibly can, but also resolving the issue. So if we agree to just deal with the transfer issue tonight, we'll agree to bring something back forward to the council here in the next couple of months, apparently, but in the near future, and we can also have discussions as well about that. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm not eating your time.
No,
You can
that's
have your
okay.
time
Do I
back.
still have the floor?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. And I think when you do that, I would just ask that we consider those who maybe didn't get a license in the first round, just to make sure we have that consideration. But I think this is a good move. I think there's maybe some fatigue in making a decision, and I don't ever want to be pushed into making a decision because we're tired. So I just want to get to the right place. And I think we'll get there. So I yield.
Thank you. And I do think we'll have healthy debate when that comes back around, because we're all not going to agree. So, but eventually we just need to come to a vote. And so I'll recommend something that you probably won't all agree with. I guarantee that's going to happen. But at least we can have a proper discussion, proper notice for that discussion, so everybody can come in and weigh in on all sides of the issue, if that sounds fair. So let's deal with this motion that's on the floor. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously.
Abstain.
With one abstention from Strommen. Thank you, everyone. Now we will move on to public hearing items 46 through 50 and open the public hearing. For items 46 through 50, I have no speaker request form, so we'll close the public hearing and move on to consent public hearing items 46 through 48. Would I have a motion or would like the council? All right. Got a motion by Roberts with a second by Tamang to approve items 46 through 48. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to the non-consent public hearing items. Item 49, second reading of ordinance number 6675, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Vision Quest Solutions for a rezoning request from Office Commercial District to General Commercial District for property generally described as being located at 4924 5th Street. Motion by Tamang, second by Roberts. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 50, second reading of ordinance number 6667, an ordinance amending the set of hearing requirements in section 16.08.120 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. Motion by Roberts, second by Tamang. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll go to the bill list. First one would be 51A bill list for Main Street Square in Visit Rapid City, totaling $275,845.15. Councilor Meyer?
I'll abstain from 51A.
Duly noted. Motion by Lehman, second by Tamang. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes with one abstention from Meyer. 51B, the bill list for August 4th, 2025 without Visit Rapid City is, I should go to the finance director for all these totals. I like it better when you say this. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The total for tonight is $16,632,423.39.
Thank you. Motion by Sechrist, second by Meyer. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Strommen, second by Roberts to adjourn. All in favor? Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.